everyone. Thank you for coming out. This is the second workshop hosted by Blackstone, and the topic today will be wellness for entrepreneurs. So actually, I think we already all are recording, so we'll be sure to save what's sure to be a great conversation tonight. My name is Andrew Millian. I'm joined by Honore Clark, and we are student assistants here at Blackstone LaunchPad, and we'll be your host tonight along with Alex. As you may know, LaunchPad is a campus-based entrepreneurship network at the University of Buffalo and is designed to help students succeed as a founder or contributor to the innovation economy. Today we'll be talking about wellness for entrepreneurs, and we have invited some amazing panelists to help come lead our discussion. This is an important topic for many entrepreneurs, and especially for student entrepreneurs who oftentimes have to balance responsibility of classes, work, and their startup. So without further ado, let's introduce your speakers. And I will start sharing my screen. I have some slides. Yes. Can you guys see the slide? Oh, I did that wrong.
Not yet.
How about now?
Oh, there you go.
Awesome. One second. All right, here we go. One moment.
Yeah, I think maybe if you go to display settings.
Oh, yeah. All right. Okay. You guys can see it still, right?
Perfect.
Awesome. So first up, we have James Moyes, founder of Organic Gentleman, which is an organization geared towards professional development. He's also the founder of Hike and Meditate, which are organizations focusing on outdoor holistic healing. He enjoys helping individuals grow and develop their personal and professional brands to inspire the generation of today and tomorrow. He's also willing to take actionable steps to appreciate small wins in life. Next up, we have Soda, who is the founder of Start With Sleep and is a self-identified sleep enthusiast. Start With Sleep is a retail boutique with education center that conducts workshops for adults and slumber parties for youngsters, all of whom learn better sleep habits. And she has 12 years educating and supporting physicians, community organizations, hospitals, and schools. Next up, we have Rachel, who is a co-owner of Bar Centric. She is very passionate about fitness and living an active lifestyle. Her company, Bar Centric, brings a new, effective, and fun workout to the Western New York area. She is AFAA certified group fitness instructor and bar intensity and certified, and has hosted international fitness retreats in the Bahamas, Costa Rica, and Belize. She's also voted Class Pass Best Fitness Instructor in Buffalo 2019. And next up, we have Sharon Kirkland, who has a PhD in counseling psychology and is actually one of the counselors here at University of Buffalo. She has professional interests in developmental issues, multiculturalism, diversity, trauma recovery, family of origin issues, and many other things. So without further ado, feel free to unmute yourself and give our presenters a warm welcome.
Welcome, everyone.
Welcome.
Thank you. Great introductions.
I'll stop sharing my screen. Oops, wrong button. Oh, still learning Zoom. Okay. Am I still sharing my screen by any chance?
I think, Honore, are you doing
No.
the questions?
Yeah, I'll do it. All right, so hi, I'm Honore, and I'll just get right into the questions, I guess. So I know we had the slides about you to give like a brief introduction, but can you guys share like a little bit more about your background, if it's relevant in terms of your business or in wellness? We can start with Michael, I guess.
Oh, cool. No problem. Well, first off, what's going on, everybody? Happy Thursday. Thank you guys. I appreciate you guys for having me. And to keep it really short and sweet, both of my the businesses that I'm passionately involved in, they do gear around health, health and wellness, from the personal development side of things, styling, clothing, being able to properly present yourself and making sure that you reflect the image that you want to portray, that deals with, health, mental health, and the element of holistic healing, taking time to go outside. That addresses, that was a business that literally started within the pandemic, and just understanding the lack of outlets and resources to receive forms of healing. So real. Yeah.
Sharon, do you want to go next?
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for the invitation. I'm so happy to be here. So I'm Sharon Kirkland Gordon. I'm a psychologist, and I spent most of my career at the University of Maryland at College Park. So I'm back here in Buffalo, which is my hometown, and came here to be closer to family, and now work at the UB Counseling Services. So I've been there for about 1.5 years, and very, very committed to student development and student wellness and mental health and the mental health needs of students.
Very interesting. Rachel.
Hi, I'm Rachel. I'm the co-founder of Bar Centric, and I actually got into fitness because I was looking for a way to better balance my work-life balance, I guess you could call it. I grew up dancing competitively, and then I started working my day job here in Buffalo, and I felt really, really out of shape super quickly just from sitting at a computer 9 to 5 and then not doing anything. So I actually got into fitness because I figured if I could be a group fitness instructor and I could get paid to work out, I figured I would actually go and work out. And now I own my own bar fitness studios. So I think I am living the dream. I'm getting paid to work out or paying myself to work out now.
I like that. Soda, do you want to go next?
Soda Kichkowski. I've owned my business for about 5 years and 5 months. My bio is a little outdated. I've been in sleep medicine and sleep health for about 15 years. So I work as a sleep health educator. So I provide corporate wellness seminars for businesses. I also do training, sleep health training for healthcare professionals. And then in terms of schools, I do like sleep health, but also like STEM. What my goal as an entrepreneur was to really build up my field. I saw a lot of, and like most entrepreneurs, right? You see kind of voids in the system. I saw that the need for education and a lot of that preventative medicine, right? Like before people got sick, I wanted to be able to be there to give them, tangible things that they could do to put into practice to support their health. Entrepreneurs love the hustle and grind, right? Like wellness is one of those things that gets put on the back burner. But in terms of sleep, I say the key is it's the key and the foundation for everything, for your physical, your emotional, and your mental health. If you want to be focused, you want to concentrate, you want to be creative, you want to be fit, you want to manage your mental health, right? Because being an entrepreneur is a roller coaster. It's the one thing most people don't realize. It's a very lonely experience, and you have to be very resilient. And that comes from taking care of yourself. That self-care is a really important piece. So that's my mission, is to kind of share that word with everybody. Anyone who will listen, I'll tell you how sleep is connected to everything. I am certified in maternity, child, and adult sleep. I have done slumber parties, but that's not the main point of my business. I do have a 6-year-old who does love doing that though. But I'm happy to answer, any questions that you have. And I did put together a slide of some of the most important tips that I think anyone could really benefit from to make sure that you got some value out of me being here today.
Yeah, I would say I'm a big fan of sleep.
Of course you are. This is
Yeah. I have another question for everybody. I know Soda touched on this briefly. In what ways do you feel entrepreneurs, and specifically student entrepreneurs, struggle in terms of balancing their responsibilities? I guess we'll start with Michael again.
Okay. So you're saying for student entrepreneurs and just pretty much.
Entrepreneurs in general.
Okay, entrepreneurs in general. I think the element of the autonomy to do whatever the level of autonomy that you have, being an entrepreneur, it is definitely I'll speak for myself. It is a blessing. And at the same time, it can be challenging, meaning like, hey, like, you know what, I'm really moving to my own beat. And then you could look to your peers or look around and, we live in the information age, and you could just question like, oh man, like maybe I should be doing this or that. But in reality, it's like, you know what, just taking a step back and just understanding you move at your own pace. Everything is, on your own time, and not letting that element defeat you. I will defeat myself, but just that definitely is a challenge within itself. It's easier said than done, but that is a continuous practice.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. Autonomy can be very nice, but very difficult to manage, I would say.
Yeah.
Sharon, do you want to go next?
So I think that one of the things that your question was, what could get in the way for entrepreneurs? I think that stress is probably one of those things, because this is what we see among our student populations in general, is that when they come to UB Counseling Services, they're usually presenting with some element of anxiety or stress. Is probably the number one presenting issue that we see at a university counseling center. And probably would say that it's probably the number one in most mental health practices, that and depression. So when our young entrepreneurs who are basically sort of growing their new business and their ideas, part of what we see is perfectionism, needing to have everything perfect, not having a fear of failure, and not being able to embrace failure when it happens and learn from those missteps or learn from those times when you kind of fall down. The best remedy is when you fall down, get back up and try again. So it's sort of like learning those lessons of, a setback is just an invitation for a comeback, and learning how to really sort of embrace that as a way of living. Because what you're doing as an entrepreneur, you're usually testing things out, and things are not going to work the first time around in most situations. So that can create anxiety and stress. The other is the self-criticism that we see. There's sort of like a little voice inside that criticizes people you criticize yourself for things you may have failed at or not, have maybe a disappointment or not done well. The first thing we do is sort of take those feelings and emotions and we turn them on ourselves. And that's what creates a great deal of stress. That's what creates the anxiety. That's what creates, and sort of it's a breeding ground for depression. The other thing is that I think that I love entrepreneurs because they are ideas driven, and they love to bring their ideas to life. And that's what I think is so exciting about, being an entrepreneur and having the ability to think creatively and think outside of the box, which could be a real great driver emotionally, and really good when you can kind of embrace that as one of your gifts and have gratitude that you can think of different kinds of ideas and you can try them and see what happens. So even the stress that's connected with that, it's kind of like that good kind of stress, because we talk about stress being eustress and de-stress. So this is the good kind of stress, when you have those ideas that you can kind of just play within your mind and see if you can make it come alive and test it out and that kind of thing. So I'll let somebody else go next because I can go on.
Yeah, I would definitely say I'm guilty trying to be a perfectionist and then stressing myself out over that, trying to make it perfect when it doesn't need to be, I guess. Rachel, do you want to go next?
Sure. So I guess speaking from the fitness side of things a little bit, the two things that we hear a lot or that I think that people struggle with. One is a popular myth about fitness is that you need 3 hours to get a workout in a day. And it's not true. So even if you're a student entrepreneur, even if you're super busy, sometimes 20 minutes, 30 minutes, that's plenty. That's really all you need a day. You can get creative and integrate it in your day, whether it's, putting on your favorite podcast, going for a walk, going for a bike ride, maybe getting out of the mindset that you have to go to a gym and be on a treadmill for an hour and then lift weights for an hour and then shower. And no one has time for that, to be honest. So there's plenty of options. There's plenty of different types of workouts out there, especially with everyone offering online stuff. You guys have so many more online fitness options at your fingertips than I did when I was in college. I'm super jealous of that because I would have probably done a lot more of that. So that would be part of my advice, is just kind of finding a way to prioritize it, not being so overwhelmed with the concept of having to get this hour or 2 hour workout. And it really only takes like 20 minutes a day. That's all you need to start. And then the second piece of that would be finding a modality that works for you. So a lot of people get hung up because they haven't tried a lot of options, or they have an injury, or they have an ailment, something. I promise you guys that there is something for everybody. So whether you need something more low impact sculpting or toning, whether you need more strength based, more cardio, you're going to want to just kind of find something that works for you. And again, like I mentioned, there's so many options out there now at your fingertips. There's so many places locally as well. And even just, you don't even need to do anything more sometimes than just go for a walk, go for a bike ride. See if you can integrate that in your schedule though.
Definitely going to look into that. Soda, do you want to give your take on the question?
Well, of course, I'm going to tell you how sleep affects both the things these ladies just talked about. So first, there's a bi-directional relationship between your mental health and your sleep. We know that there's a correlation with depression, bipolar disease, and with entrepreneurs. I don't know if you guys know the statistic, but half of entrepreneurs will suffer some sort of mental health issue in their lifetime, if you can believe that, because we have these ups and downs. Managing your sleep, most importantly, the quality of your sleep, helps with managing that mental health piece. And when it comes to physical health as well, what most people don't realize is our hunger and our appetite are actually regulated by hormones that are controlled when we get a good night's sleep. And when we tend to short ourselves on sleep, maybe we're only getting 4 or 5 hours, they're inverted. And what happens is we tend to overconsume. So after only one bad night's sleep, you can consume upwards of 850 additional calories the next day. And women who sleep short hours are actually more prone to eating a low quality diet. So those are just some of those things that are kind of put together, but it's amazing when you understand some of the science. And to another point, something that it's Dr. Gordon, right? Do you go by doctor?
Yeah, Kirkland, yeah.
She was speaking about.
You can call me Sharon. You could call me Sharon. So especially with college students, because I was a student at UB, and one thing that I always thought was interesting was time management. From a very young age, my mom was very structured. Consistency is something that young children thrive on. It's something that, like right now, when I counsel with families, I'm always saying like that structure is going to help them be resilient for what we're going through. But with college students, it's the same way. You had mentioned, Michael, like you have autonomy, like you could do anything, right? But what do? You're all over the place, right? It's like we don't tend to keep a sleep-wake schedule. We're not eating at the right times. And all of these things control the 24-hour clock in which we operate. And each of us has our own different internal clock. Some people are more prone to being like early risers versus night owls. A lot of college students tend to be on that night owl end, right? But when you're not eating meals consistently, you're not managing your stress. You know, we actually take about 25,000 breaths in a day without even thinking about it. And if you're someone who tends to be very stressed, you're constantly putting your body in that flight or flight response, right? So working out helps to connect with that mind-body connection, right? Remembering to breathe helps to regulate your stress and put you in a better mindset. Negative self-talk is a huge one that I talk about in sleep, because we don't often realize the relationship we have with sleep, right? You might take it for granted or like kind of put it off to the side. But as you get into adulthood, you start to recognize that you'll have challenges because you're not prioritizing it, or you kind of have these misconceptions about like, oh, I don't really need sleep. I only need like 4 or 5 hours, or, oh, it's not that important. Or we use our bedrooms, like you guys are in a college dorm, right? You use your bedrooms for other things. So when you're going to sleep, you don't actually think about the fact it's also your workspace. So you don't have that separation of space, and it makes it harder to turn your mind off. And then last, you're always looking at those electronic devices. You know, the group that is, there was a poll by the National Sleep Foundation, was like 95% of people use their electronic devices before bed. And that can prevent us from falling asleep and maintaining our sleep. But the biggest offenders of this are people between the ages of 18 and 30. They love to scroll.
And what that does is it cuts your melatonin, that's the hormone that regulates your sleep, right in half. And it could be the reason why you're waking up at night or you just can't like turn off your mind. So all those things are connected.
Very interesting. All right, so I have one more question for you, Soda. How has implementing better sleep practices helped in your personal and professional life?
Well, I've always been a sleep girl. I've always prioritized it, which I think it was like, it ended up being my calling. I think with me, one thing that I talk about, especially when I talk to entrepreneurs or business owners, because I help to mentor businesses, is that with me with sleep, it's not just about sleep, it's about energy management. And when we're entrepreneurs, it's all about, I don't have enough hours in the day, right? But that's because we're not managing our energy in the right way, right? If you're not sleeping well, it's going to take you that much longer to answer emails, to build yourself up, to make those cold calls, or to prepare for a meeting, or to feel creative, to put together slides or proposals or whatever it is that you need to do, right? If we don't have sleep as a foundation for that, it's harder to manage our energy, which in turn is harder to manage our time. So I think that's where sleep is the key for that.
All right, and then a quick follow-up. Do you think the American society carries enough value with sleep? Do people value it enough?
They don't. They're starting to catch on. They mention things in the news. I always make the joke of, I started my business a little over 5 years ago, and I actually didn't even tell like my family and friends I was starting a business. Like I legit decided to create a business. I got a space, I flipped it in 2 weeks, and I opened, and my family's like, I heard you opened a business. And I'm like, I did open a business. And they're like, you didn't tell us. And I'm like, because I didn't want to hear your criticism. And what's so funny is in the first year of me having my business, people were like, that's crazy. Like, that's like, you're not going to make money. I left a position as a director of a national diagnostic testing facility for sleep disorders to do this. And people were like, there's no money in education. Like, you're never going to get anywhere. And I'm like, the mission is very important to me. And now I can't tell you how many emails or messages I get in a day where they're like, oh, did you see that the Lakers are using a sleep coach? Or, oh, Tom Brady says that like his key to success is a good night's sleep. And I get those on a daily where now people are like, sleep really is like, you're really onto something. And I'm like, yeah, I am.
I like that. So I have a question for you, Sharon. I'm sure if you've counseled
Michael, did you want to add something real quick?
Yeah. Oh, yes.
Okay.
I want to piggyback, and I think this could apply to everybody in a second. So Soda, the question is, I'm somebody who religiously takes daily naps, like on a weekly basis. I make sure I'll even put it on like my daily to-do list, take a nap. Whether it's like 30 minutes, if I got it, quick power nap, 10 minutes. But yeah, I do that religiously. So I'm curious to know what your thoughts are on that.
I'm a big advocate for the nap. The thing about naps is you want to make sure it's not disruptive to nighttime sleep. So you don't want to take a nap after 4 o'clock. And it's exactly what you said. The power nap between 10 to 30 minutes is perfect. You can even take a nap that's 90 minutes. Never take a nap that's 45 minutes or 60 minutes because we actually sleep in 4 stages of sleep. The 2 deepest being deep and REM sleep. And one of the reasons most people wake up feeling very unrested or unrefreshed or groggy in the morning is they wake up at the wrong time. Like they set their alarm and they wake up while they're still in those deep stages. So they wake up and they're like, oh, just 5 more minutes. And it's like, they feel like garbage for the rest of the day. I'll drop in the chat box. There's actually an app, a free app that you can track your sleep patterns. And what it does is it gathers some data. So it bases it on an algorithm of your sleep patterns because you can sleep anywhere between like 70 to 110 minute sleep cycles. And it'll decipher that for you. So instead of setting your alarm at like 7:30 a.m., it'll tell you to wake up at 7 a.m. or 8 o'clock. It does it on like 15, 30-minute intervals. And it's a huge difference in how you feel because you're waking up in the lighter stages of sleep versus the deep stages of sleep. So it's a huge game changer.
Interesting. Thank you. Hopefully that helped everybody too. So no naps over 45 minutes. Gotcha.
No naps over 45 minutes.
I'm a big fan of naps too. I've been guilty of many naps over 45 minutes, some lasting probably double, maybe triple that. But so I have a question for you, Sharon.
Yes.
I'm sure you counseled many students who've been trying to balance many competing priorities. What types of strategies do you suggest to help them get through what they consider while considering their own personal well-being?
Some of the tips and strategies, Soda talked about a lot of them. I mean, getting really good sleep, good nutrition. Sometimes it comes down really to the basics. to make sure that you are really taking good care of yourself while you're doing all the things that you need to do. What I find is that many students kind of shortchange themselves. So they forget to eat. They forget to eat on a regular time schedule. They pump themselves up on those energy drinks, which disrupts the sleep cycle. They can't figure out why they're exhausted. Why can't I concentrate? Why don't I feel well? So I think sort of really taking good, as we call it, self-care now. So doing the best you can to take care of yourself and starting with the basics. Also building in things like relaxation, finding ways to relax your body, whether you do it through meditation or deep breathing or something of that nature, helps to reduce the stress level. All have sort of like the parasympathetic and the sympathetic nervous system, and it sort of works in conjunction with each other. When we sort of relax or do deep breathing, it helps to regulate that, helps to bring down that level of stress. There are several different apps available, and even on YouTube, they have all this stuff on YouTube also around helping people actually to manage their stress and to engage in meditation. The other is just good time management. And I think someone mentioned this, and coming up with a to-do list. What I have found in my experience is that most of the time when there are things that one needs to do, and they talk about, I have so much to do, I just don't know what I'm going to do. And they begin to ruminate and obsess about it and feeling totally and completely overwhelmed. One of the first things I do with them is try to empty the brain. And I do that by helping them to, now let's just sit down and list all the things that are in front of you. Let's come up with a priority list. So your A list are the things that are immediate, that you need to get done within the first 48 hours. Your B list, what are those? Those are second, that you need to get done. They're not immediate, but you need to get them done. And then your third is your C list. What are the things that probably can wait a while that you need to take care of? And it's amazing when they begin to write down all this stuff, they recognize that all the things that were holding into their head, they're magnifying, or we call it sometimes catastrophizing. So it seems bigger than it actually is. Once they write it on paper, it gives them a sense of control. So get that stuff out of your head, write down a to-do list, come up and prioritize that to-do list. And it may look a little different to you once you begin to do that. So that's one thing. The other are just the external stressors that we place on ourselves. Like there's some things that you have control over, there's some things that you don't. Legitimate kinds of things that students are dealing with. The COVID pandemic has been something that has been so incredibly difficult for students. And I understand why students are not sleeping. And initially, there were many students coming in SOTA, and they were complaining that they were not sleeping well. And I think that the issue of being the COVID pandemic kept people inside, so they weren't able to get into their regular routine. So what we recommended was establish some kind of routine. Try not to stay in bed all day, because you could easily stay in bed. You could look at your lecture from bed. You could do all these different, and so that was really disrupting the sleep cycle and creating irritability, anxiety, stress, and one thing ended up leading to another and causing bigger problems. So, yeah, so I think that, just sort of being able to engage in that good self-care, that's where I started with the good self-care, a good sleep schedule, eating regularly and eating meals, trying not to skip on those meals, whatever works for you. And also getting outdoors and getting good exercise, trying to get fresh air, because it's sort of being stuck inside, and it also creates stress and a great deal of anxiety for some of our students. So, yeah, I'll stop there. That's one.
If I could actually ask a follow-up question too. What do you think you would say to a student who may be struggling because they feel like they are so busy that they're going to neglect sleep, or they're going to skip meals to fill that time, and they feel like if they do that, they're going to lose time to do other things?
Okay. What I have done with some students is that there is a 168-hour schedule that we have used sometimes. And it's, again, getting it out of their head, helping them to prioritize the things that they have to do. Because We understand the busyness, and it's so true. So acknowledging that students are busy. Students have busy schedules, but wanting to sort of see what that looks like on paper, building in time for lunch, building in time for dinner, building in time for a break. With 168 hours in a week, you would be amazed that sometimes it doesn't look the same as when you hold all these responsibilities in your head or on your phone, because some people put it in their phones. So really getting it down on paper and being able to look at it makes it much more manageable. The other things that I do is really engage students in being able to manage their stress level, being able to do sort of like an assessment of what it is that may be driving the stress. So sometimes it's not only school, sometimes it may be family related issues. Sometimes it's financial related issues. There are multiple roles that students often have. It may be caretaking responsibilities. It may be dealing with a class that is particularly challenging. And how do you sort of change your mindset? Sometimes the things that we tell ourselves, so there's like a cognitive behavioral triangle that I often try to use with students and with my clients. And it's basically where your cognitions and what you think informs how you feel and then how you behave. So if you think in your head that I am, that I am a failure, for example, and you keep saying that to yourself, then guess what you start to feel? How do you start to feel in response to that thought? You start to feel anxious, you may feel depressed, you may feel sad. And then how might you behave? So it's because this triangle goes like this. So how do you then behave? You probably will engage in avoidant behaviors. What I see along a lot of students who get overwhelmed is that they start to engage in avoidance. And then that leads to avoiding going to class, not really working on the project they're supposed to be working on, and not eating, not sleeping, just sort of checking out and just pulling the covers over their head. So engaging this avoidance behavior. So what we want to do is disrupt that. We start with the thought that's in your head. So if that thought is in your head, how can we change that cognition? What is true about you? Are you a failure? Are you really a failure? Where did that language come from? How can we change that mindset to something that is much more realistic about who you are as a person? It may be that maybe you didn't do well in a particular class. Maybe you didn't do as well as you wanted on a particular exam, but this is one exam among many that you've taken. The other trick is to think about how much you've accomplished and how much you can be grateful for. Again, changing your cognitions. What can you be grateful for? Think on a daily basis of all the things that have happened that you can express gratitude for. And that sometimes helps to lower one's anxiety and also negative self-talk. So keeping a gratitude journal. And the other thing is especially with students, there's sometimes, especially when it's exams, like I think of exams, like students may say, I got an 82 on my exam. And to me, that's a failure. I wanted to get, 100 on the exam, or I want to get in the 90s on the exam. And the way I think of it is sort of like mastery. You've mastered 82% of what you were supposed to learn. And then the other percentage, that's the part, the 18%, that's the part that you probably didn't get and you need to work on a little bit more if you want to get to 100. But 82% you've mastered. So, it's sort of like changing the way that we see things.
Thank you. Sounds like very valuable input.
So I have a question regarding self-negative talk. So I've been doing a lot of sleep affirmations. I think so Soda can also contribute to this. I think so whenever I'm doing affirmations when I'm sleeping, putting it on YouTube, it's repetitive, and to shift my subconscious mind, subconscious state or something. It disrupts with my sleep, but at the same time, it's making me feel happier. So what should I do? Should I do it in the day or should I do it in the night? What should I do? It should not disrupt with my sleep, or what can I do with that?
Well, if you're using sleep affirmations, it should be done before bed, because noise is something that could be disruptive to your brain while you're sleeping as well. Like that's why like white noise is something. So it would be something that you incorporate into your power down. You don't want it to be something that you're listening to while you're sleeping. That's why as well, Alex and I were just having this conversation. Even when someone uses the same white noise, what most people don't realize is they don't give you variety just so that you could switch through. They give you a variety because your brain needs that variety. Like you're not supposed to constantly be listening to the same sound. Your brain becomes acclimated and then it starts to not hear it anymore. And then the white noise is no longer effective. So it's better to actually do it into your power down routine. And I did want to piggyback on something that Sharon said, you know, with being college students and entrepreneurs and like leading into this, one thing that you'll notice with a lot of the big names, the big entrepreneurs, Tony Robbins, like Darren Hardy, all these big people, they have all these books on like habits, right? And the power of habits. And it's like, you kind of like are constantly burning yourself, not creating a schedule, not being good with time management, not being good with energy, not being good with wellness. But the foundation for any good business is based on good habits. It's on having a routine. And it doesn't, even when I work with clients, you know, when people are like, Soda, what's your best sleep tip? My best sleep tip to prioritize it. What does that look like? Right? So it's not about following 100 steps in a day. It's about light is one of the most important things that you can do to set your circadian rhythm in motion. If nothing else, wake up in the morning, go to the window. That first 10 minutes, it sets your circadian rhythm. It's that on switch for the day. It helps your body produce serotonin. It's going to help stabilize your mood. It's going to help you produce hormones that are going to regulate your sleep later on in the day, help manage your energy levels. So light and first thing in the morning, again at the noon hour, if you're in your dorm room or, you know, not going outside, making sure that you're getting like that fresh air, like Sharon said, or getting to a window. That sunlight's very important. But then, you know, the negative, the emitting, like the bright light at night, like when we're on our phones, our tablets, our laptops, watching TV, it's really that proximity to our face that's a big thing. I mentioned like it cuts melatonin production right in half and it can delay the onset of sleep for up to 3 hours. There's glasses that you can wear called blue blockers. They're like an orange lens. You might be familiar with blue blockers that are clear. Those don't work for sleep. That's nonsense. I don't even.
Oh, and what about the app for blue light blocker?
So like amber glasses are great. Even the Flux app or like the night mode on your iPhone or your Android phone, they've done clinical studies that show that it does not block or filter the light. So it's still disruptive to your sleep patterns. You need to wear like these orange brown glasses because that's the only thing that's going to cut out that spectrum of light so that you're able to still produce the hormone in your body. What we're seeing now, especially among the college population, is that you're actually producing less melatonin. So as we get older, our body produces less of it. We're actually seeing it in much younger populations because of all the exposure that we're being inundated with bright light all the time.
Thank you so much. Yep.
Soda, I have a question for you. So can you address the energy drinks and caffeine and its effect on sleep?
It's horrible. I mean,
energy drinks seems like they're getting bigger and bigger. You know,
the thing is that they have so much caffeine in them, and this is where, like, I'm surprised that a lot of them are still on the market because of the high dosages. Everyone metabolizes caffeine at a different rate. That's why they say, like, don't drink coffee or your frappuccinos or whatever it is that you're drinking with caffeine. Depending on where you're buying it, Starbucks, Tim Hortons, Dunkin' Donuts, all of them have a different amount of caffeine intake. Anyone want to take a guess at which of those three places has the most caffeine in their coffee?
Starbucks.
Nope. Anybody?
Dunkin'
Donuts. Dunkin' Donuts.
Yes, donuts.
They're the worst. So regardless of like the size of cup, then that's the thing too. If you go to Tim Hortons, it's like, are you getting a small or are you getting like a huge drink? It takes about 5 to 6 hours. Everyone has a different sensitivity to it. So that's why you want to cut that out in the afternoon hours. But if you are someone who, you know, especially college students, you tend to drink energy drinks in the afternoon. If you incorporate broccoli into your system, it'll actually help flush some of that caffeine out of your system. So incorporate it into your dinner. But I would definitely suggest switching to a different caffeine source. Drink like a green tea or something that's more natural, that's going to give you the energy that you need without causing, like, a lot of those things cause cardiac arrhythmias. Like we're seeing a lot of negative effects from that much caffeine intake. It's not advised. Someone said, what about?
All right, so I have a question for you, James. I know Sharon touched on this a little bit, but can you explain like the impact of being outside on like mental well-being?
Okay, cool. Well, good question. For me, it's just it's inexpensive, it's free, and just being able to go outdoors and connect. I've always been somebody who definitely like appreciated going outside, but during the pandemic, with everything, gyms closing down and stuff like that, you know, going hiking and being outdoors, I was like, you know what, hey, like this is like really providing like a true element of peace for me. Like I've always appreciated, but throughout the pandemic, I believe a lot of people learned what to appreciate more in life. You realize things, and it's like, all right, a lot of things are not promised. A lot of the ideal of structure is not the same. Everybody's been affected to a measurable sense, by this pandemic. And so, going outside, just learning like that's a form of healing. Even like today, I was like, you know what, let me get some time outside, and went for like a 5-mile run, which is for me, it's liberating, and it's just like, it's the most inexpensive thing that you could do to heal yourself, just literally just being able to be present. And a lot of the time, we are on that to-do list, or on that, okay, what do I got to accomplish next, and so forth. So really just giving that time to self to go outside and just be present and take that in.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. A big fan of going outside too, when I'm not taking a nap, I guess.
Well, we're in the months right now. We have a ton of seasonal affective disorder in this area because people have a very low vitamin D. So getting outside, especially, like, I know you probably can't tell with this light, but I've got tan skin, and we have to be out in the sun a little bit longer. That vitamin D is really important because that helps with serotonin, those happy chemicals, which helps with a lot of the different hormones in our body that regulate a lot of things.
Sure. All right, so I have a question for you, Rachel. We all know staying fit is important, but can you explain how working out just a little bit, or just even moving, relates to your overall well-being?
Sure. Well, most people think of the obvious physical benefits to working out. So whether you're trying to gain muscle or lose fat or burn calories, everyone has their own goals with fitness physically, whether it's core strength or, the list goes on. I could talk about benefits of working out forever. But I think what's also important with the physical piece is the mental component. So just tying into what you guys are all talking about, getting into what we call a flow state, which is basically what we do in all of our classes. Take you through a workout where you're using your mind-body connection. You're focusing so much on what your body is doing that you're really not able to scan your to-do list or to start thinking of things in your head. You really just need to focus on your body. So what a lot of workouts do by that is it gets your head it gets your head cleared. It takes your head space away from all the stressors in your life. It makes you feel really well balanced. Usually at the end of our classes, our members leave a lot happier, like a lot better mood than they came in with, and kind of just more ready to take on the rest of their day. So I would just say, like, tying in the mental component is a benefit that you might not think of when you think of putting a workout or a physical component on your schedule. I don't think you think about it, but I think it's just as important as the physical benefits.
Yeah, I like that. All right, so we're going to open up to audience questions. So if anybody has a question in the audience, you can ask it to anybody on our panel.
Yeah, feel free to unmute or drop it in the chat.
Yeah.
I have a quick question for Sharon about to-do lists. So you mentioned the 168-hour kind of calendar that you have for students. I find a lot of students resist to-do lists. Mm-hmm. How do you get somebody there if they won't actually use, I love my planner, my colleagues know that, but I'm curious, what are some halfway points? Is it sticky notes on a wall? Like, how do you get them to actually work towards a to-do list?
Well, I appreciate your question because I think part of what is interesting about counseling and therapy is that people tend to come to therapists wanting change in some area of their life. And because they've been doing the same thing over and over again and getting the same results. So when you see a therapist and basically you're working through some stuff, and if it's time management, they've been trying their own method for a while. And my question is always, how's that working for you? And if they say that, this isn't working at all, what I then say to them is, would you like to try something new? And it doesn't mean that you have to make a bargain to do this forever, but I'm wondering if you'd be willing to sort of just give this a try for a week and see if this is something that is useful. You can determine whether or not you want to, if after a week, if it doesn't work, throw it away. I mean, it's not working for you. So we'll try something else. So there may be a variety of things, or, we work with the students who say, what might work for you? Now, will it work to you to have colored pencils and put all of your priorities in color? Does it help to do it in crayon? Does it help with sticky notes? So it could be you work with the person to find out, to meet them where they are and try to understand what the resistance is about, if it's resistance, or is it sort of like making a commitment maybe too big right now? So you break things down into smaller goals. So if you can't get to the 168, how about the next 2 days? How about if we work with the 48 and see if we could do about the 48? So it's really sort of breaking things down into smaller steps. So you meet the person where they are. You don't try, it's not like forcing it on anyone, but you're working in collaboration to find out, what is your set point in terms of where you'd like to go, what you'd like to try, what you'd like to change, and how much movement do you want toward that goal? So I hope that helps.
Very much. Thank you.
Okay.
We have a question in the chat. What would you recommend for somebody who already has anxiety disorder and now has more on their plate with a business venture and a PhD? That is from Court Burris.
Okay. So thank you so much for that question. Your anxiety disorder is, I don't know how that impacts what it is that you're doing. The anxiety disorder is a condition that doesn't necessarily have to get in the way of doing the things you need to get done in your career, because I'm not quite sure how it manifests itself. I'm not sure about things like if there's medication, because some people with anxiety disorders are able to manage their disorders by getting to know their disorder and really working with it and working along with it without medication. Some require medication on an ongoing basis. Some require it as needed. So in terms of I'm going to focus more on the getting things done part, and then talk about how anxiety may get in the way of that. So what I mentioned before is trying to try a new way of breaking down goals, like establishing your short-term goals and your long-term goals, and maybe even your in-between goals. And then deciding how you meet those goals, break it down into very, very tiny steps. So, and this, if you're not able to do it yourself, then you can use one of our wellness coaches, this at Health Promotions, and they can help you with that. So you can get a coach who can help you to establish those goals. But you basically establish goals and you break them down into tiny steps about what you think you can accomplish. And again, this isn't the therapist or the coach telling you what to do, it's what you agree to do. And this sometimes, by getting yourself anchored and working with yourself around these issues, can help to alleviate feelings of anxiety. Again, what I think drives a lot of the distress as it relates to anxiety is, again, the cognitions and what it is that you tell yourself about yourself. If you're highly self-critical, that criticism will drive anxious feelings and stressful feelings. And therefore you may or may not, then you engage, most people get into an avoidance thing. So they avoid doing things, putting things off. Sometimes it's perfectionism, and that can get in the way of getting things done because because it's never good enough. And you don't want to let it go because it's not good enough. So you may not try, and you're trying to get it done, but you're in this kind of loop of perfectionism where you keep criticizing yourself because it's not quite good enough. And that can lead to avoidance. So you end up in this cycle of avoidance. So sort of way, so what we try to do is disrupt that cycle some way, shape, or form. I think the other thing is listening to everything that's being discussed here, doing an assessment. Are you sleeping? Are you eating properly? Are you exercising? I think this is the brilliant thing that you all put together, because you've got all the pieces right here. You know, how are you taking care of your mental health? How are you taking care of your physical health? How are you taking care of your body's need to exercise, get sunlight, sleep? You know, all of that stuff kind of works together. And that all helps to come up with the total person and a self-care package for the total person. Did I answer your question? So I wanted to just tag onto that a little bit in terms of the issue of self-care, because it's all of these pieces, but I don't want to dismiss other things. So you take care of your physical self, you take care of your spiritual self. So that's the other aspect of the self that requires some attention, whether that is engaging in a spiritual community or connecting with a higher power or dealing with issues of forgiveness, existentialism, coming up with some sense of what meaning and purpose you have in life. That also helps. So that's important. Having people support, having people around you who can help you, who can encourage you, who can give you positive self-talk is also another aspect that could help with self-care. So it's all of these various kinds of things that you can employ.
All right, thank you. So would you like to share a slide real quick before we wrap it up?
Yeah, let me just get this here. Let's see. Can you guys see anything?
Looks good.
You see it? It's just like, that's playing. That's not the slide though. Let's see here. There we go. Here's the slide. So let me just see if I can grab this and put it over here so I can see what I'm doing. Okay, do you guys see it?
Yep.
Okay, so these are just kind of, we've touched base on some of these things already, but when I talk to people about their sleep or some of the things that they can do, these are some of the most important. So beyond like my number one tip being to prioritize your sleep, light is the single most important thing you can do. I mentioned getting that light first thing in the morning, the noon hour, and then avoiding that artificial light at night. Learning what your chronotype is. I talked about early riser and night owl. So like really identifying, figuring that out is going to help you also devise a schedule, because then you can base it based on, you know, when you would want to, I'm sorry, I've got somebody, I think you're seeing my desktop. So you're not seeing the actual slide.
Yeah, we were, and then it switched to this.
What's going on here? Hold on. Let me see if I can. Sorry, I have like multiple screens. How's that? Do you see now?
Yep.
So two things I wanted to just touch on, because we talked about stress. One big thing that I talk about, especially when I work with entrepreneurs, is I talk about daily pauses. So I had talked about the fact that we take upwards of 25,000 breaths in a day. Daily pauses is simply just remembering to inhale, and slowly exhale, we tend to carry a lot of tension in our forehead and our jaws and our neck. It's that mind-body connection. It's why you might do a breathing meditation before bed and you're like, that was supposed to work, and then it doesn't work because the work has to be done during the day. So it's really important to remember to take a breath. What I'll often do is I'll have people schedule like an alarm on their phone, and when the phone beeps or an alarm goes off, regardless if you're driving, you're in class, you're on the phone, you're in the middle of a class, you take that moment to be present in the moment with yourself and to remember to take that deep breath, because that's going to help relax you physically and mentally, which is going to help prepare you for sleep later that night. So I think that's a really important one. Beyond that, we are seeing a lot of medical sleep disorders in the younger population. So if you really try to adjust like your lifestyle habits and you find that you're still struggling with what we're often seeing is a lot of sleep disorders that are not diagnosed until individuals are older. So when they talk about 7 or 8 hours is kind of like the ideal for sleep, that's like the average amount of sleep. It's really based on a spectrum of 6.5 to 9.5 hours. You really want to figure out what the best number is for you. Some people get by on 6.5, 7, and it's enough sleep for them. Some people need 9 or 9.5. But if you're sleeping excessively, that's actually what a narcolepsy looks like in adults, is that excessive sleepiness. If you're sleeping for 12, 13 hours and you still feel exhausted and you still feel like you need to take a nap, that's a time to see a sleep specialist, because we're seeing a lot of that in the younger generation. It's going beyond just sleep deprivation into the medical end, where it's being left untreated for years, and then it manifests itself into issues with anxiety. They're not able to function in society, hold down a job. And that's one thing that the pandemic has introduced, where employers are now a lot more lenient with schedules, and people are able to customize it based on, naturally what their rhythm is, so that they're more prone to being better with work at night. They're able to adjust their schedule now. So that's just, so these are just some of the things. I can send this slide out. There's a lot to say about each of these. The last thing I'll leave you with is that 77% of nighttime awakenings actually have to do with your environment. Temperature, humidity, and air quality are huge. When Michael talked about going outside, getting the fresh air, Sharon talked about it. Bringing in plants into the bedroom, it helps with humidity levels, it helps with temperature. Temperature is really important to falling asleep and maintaining your sleep. You always want it to be a very cool environment. And then the last thing is hydration. When we don't drink enough, right? And when we short ourselves on sleep, we tend to be more dehydrated. What people often don't realize too is if you don't drink enough water, you have excess cortisol levels, which means you are more likely to be a stressed individual. So water is actually very important to that as well. So it's just a very simple trick. And that's,
so many things, Soda.
There's so much I could talk about. So that's it. I'm done.
So is it possible for me to share about the counseling services? We have time?
Yeah, I think real quick we could do that, and then we'll switch over to UB Open Coffee Club. Welcome to anyone who has just joined us. We're just finishing up our workshop.
Can you see that? Can you all see that?
I'm still seeing Soda's screen. Soda, you might have to.
Oh, okay.
Oh no, I thought I stopped the share. Did I not? Good.
So here we go. Oh, okay, so I want to introduce you to the counseling services. And this is the student wellness model that we use at the counseling service. When a student comes in for an assessment, there are same-day appointments at the counseling service. You call for an appointment, you meet with a counselor on that day, unless we are really full. It's rare that we're really full, but sometimes we are, and you may have to have the first assessment done the following day. But from that assessment, there are a few things that can happen, which is our step 2. One, it could be self-directed resources where you're referred to some resources with health promotions. There may be a campus resource that you may be referred to. There may be a clinical, like educational programs. We do have wellness coaching, so that might be a referral source. There's also clinical intervention, which is primary care visits and at the health service, or either counseling services. So when you go for the assessment, we'll determine what it is that you need. And many of the students who come for counseling really want one-on-one counseling. We make that assessment, we determine whether or not it's a good fit. We provide counseling to students every other week. If we determine that a student needs more than what we can provide and it's not a good fit, it goes to step 5, which is we then refer the student to a community provider. Right now, we're not doing any in-person visits because of COVID, but we're offering teletherapy, and that's the teletherapy for individual, couples, and group counseling. We offer outreach services like we're doing today. We also have phone consultation for family members, faculty, and students. You should also know that we have an after-hours crisis counselor available any time of the day or night. During our business hours, there's someone in our office at night. We have a counselor, a life counselor, to talk with students after hours, in the middle of the night, holidays, weekends, and during breaks. Our hours of operation are 8:30 to 5 p.m., except we're open until 7 on Thursday nights, and on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays, we're open until 7. We also have, as part of our wellness model, health promotions, and health promotions office is in the student union, and they focus on healthy eating, sexual violence, wellness coaching, and also alcohol and other drugs. There's also the health services, which is under the same wellness umbrella, and that is located in Michael Hall, where they have a team of doctors, physicians, nurse practitioners. They have a women's health clinic, a travel clinic, also health education is in that area. I sent Alex a list of our workshops for the spring. So we have a whole host of workshops that we offer during the spring, and even some with life through loss, coping with COVID-19, one on mindfulness, mindfulness self-compassion. We have a series of outreach workshops on that. So there are a number of ones that are really cool that I think that you might like. We also have a group for students who want to talk about social justice. And this is a group that is fairly new for us, and it's for white students to create a healthy campus for everyone and to create an anti-racist culture. So they're also recruiting members for that group. We have a number of phone apps that are available as well. Stop, Breathe, and Think. The Calm one, Calm is, they have some free, but most of them you have to pay for. But these are some phone apps that can be available to you. One that is on our website is TAO. This is one that is a self-guided program. It has different modules, and modules on anxiety, modules on depression, and modules on stress in general. They have some really great interventions on there. So you can just go on our website, go to TAO, sign up, and then you can have access to all of the information on TAO. In addition, we have these other resources that may be of use to you. There is crisis text, and for those who don't want to come in person, come in for an appointment to talk to a counselor, but if in crisis they may not want to talk on the phone, there's something called crisis text. This is 24 hours support. You can use your phone to text, and you'll have a counselor on the other end text with you. So, and there's some other resources there as well. So, any questions? We're located in, our offices are, we have an office on the North Campus in Richmond Hall. Our other office is in Michael Hall. Of course, we're not seeing any in-person people, but it's good for you to know once things open up.
All right, so let me just wrap this up.
Yeah, thank you for giving me that time.
No problem. All right, so let me just wrap this up real quick. I want to thank our panelists and also our guests for being with us today. Our next workshop is next week, the 11th at 5:30. If you would like to attend, is Design Think for Entrepreneurs. We also have other competitions and events coming up. IIMAK and Power Pitch, who is for female students who are looking to start venture leads, and challenge. And then, as always, we have our venture coaches and experts in residence coaching being offered virtually. You can find a link in our link tree. Check out our newsletter and social media at LaunchPad_UB for information on upcoming events. And also, I want to say after this is our coffee club if you would like to stay and talk. And thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you guys for having us.
Thank you. Yes, thank you so much. It's been good this time with you all. Thank you so much.
Thank you for being here.
All right, well, with that, Andrew and Honor, I take it away for open coffee. I've made you guys co-hosts. I don't know if you want to do breakouts or whatever.